Yes, thank you to our producer Alex for showing that video. I am on location this week, and you're turning into the weekend rotation with Jake, Mark. AJ is off this week due to some reason. I assume law school.
Law school
that
is
lazy bum. Jake, welcome to the full-time gig. This is your tryout.
Yeah, I was just saying, happy to be here. I know you'll probably know me from the midweek segment, so really happy to kind of talk about the people outside of the midweek little guys.
Mark, busy week for you with your activities.
Yep. Down here, lost last night, so I'm eliminated, so I can focus fully on the podcast now. Down
money
here,
on that one.
Yeah, I didn't win this year, so that's okay. It happens.
Are you thinking about entering the transfer portal?
I'm transferring to nicer, warmer weather. I'm here at the Oregon coast, and it's 38 degrees this morning. So yeah,
jeez,
not super fun out right now.
Well, here in Fayetteville, it's like half raining, but it's very warm. It's weird. It feels like I'm in the rainforest a little bit.
I'm on location in Houston, where it is, I think, 90 degrees. Probably gonna go swimming later.
Jeez, that's ridiculous.
I kind of hate you.
We had to get up to 90 or like 89 in Omaha this week, and it felt like it was 150 just because of how long it's been kind of cold. That shock.
How terrible the weather's been.
Yeah. Mother Nature has to ease us in. We can't just go all the way in. Let me dip my toes in first.
I know those Washington State pictures that they posted on their, I think, Twitter page. I was completely unrelated to that. I was like, I couldn't even fathom that it was snowing at this time of year.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Gonzaga-Portland UP game, they had to stop in the 7th inning. It was snowing so hard they couldn't play baseball anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's normal. And everybody else is like, timeout. That's not what's normal. Like, oh, I grew up here, so we've had to stop games because of snow many times.
Yeah, I had like the red flags going off. I was like, wait. I was like, now I know why they'll have turf up there.
That's why we put it everywhere we can. It's insane. As soon as they created field turf, we're like, throw it on everything. Throw it on everywhere. Every field.
But outside of the weather, did we enjoy this week's lead up to the weekend of baseball?
Just more and more chaos. Like, that's all we're seeing every week. Anybody can lose. I mean, Tennessee's lost twice now. We thought that they were clearly the best. They're struggling. If this many losses is struggling, but yeah, Jake and I were talking about it earlier. 15 of the top 25 lose again. Like,
and one of them didn't even play. Yeah, so it's 15 to 24.
Yeah, and we've had some good series, and Arkansas looks like they're taking care of business after losing a weekend series before. So I don't know. I love the chaos. I'm glad. I think it's good for the sport. So,
and a lot of parity. I mean, you really, even in our picks, so they're starting to get harder and harder because I feel like every single week you're almost just gambling with who's going to lose this week. The Tennessee one did catch me a little bit off guard. I joked with one of my friends who went to Tennessee. I was like, does Tennessee, smoke cigars when they beat Alabama? Because I always see Alabama smoke cigars. And he goes, you know what? I honestly do not know. I've followed Tennessee long enough to where we haven't beat them, so I don't know. So I was really hoping he was going to the game today and he was going to bust out some cigars, but I guess he's got to put them, back in the humidor because I think the Tide's going to take the next two or one of the next two.
Yeah, I'm down in Fayetteville for the LSU game today. If it's played, and I was there yesterday, so that's really the one that caught my eye the most because I was watching it. Arkansas won 4-0. They looked pretty good. I'll tell you, I watched Kansas State play Oklahoma State a couple weeks ago in person, and there were some hard hit balls because it's a college baseball team. But every time Arkansas makes contact, they hit it hard. You never, even if it's a fly out, you hear it come off the bat. And that just kind of stood out to me. That's a team that if you can hit the ball hard and you're going to do it consistently, you're going to go places. And people, Mark, you said it earlier. Hello, you said it earlier that I don't even know. You feel like it's Arkansas's year. So if it is, I do. And so does Ozzy, as you can all see. Arkansas is winning the national championship. I'm personally guaranteeing it. Thank you for tuning in, Ozzy. We love Ozzy.
Yes.
Wish you were out here in Fayetteville, but apparently you decided to scurry out to Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a way where you look at it and it's not Arkansas's chance to redeem from last year. They're just a very well put together team. Beating LSU, who was hot coming into this weekend, it all sets up for them to be successful. I think if they win 1 or 2 games in the SEC, that's all they're really going to need in the SEC tournament and to get ready for that regional because they're going to get a host. They should be a super national seed. I think that it's theirs to lose at this point again.
Yeah, I was going to say that Stanford game that they had in Round Rock just feels like worlds ago where they were shut out. I mean, they're hot. They don't kick the ball around like I know LSU struggled with, and that kind of has been the difference in the series so far. Is it just seems like Arkansas looks like the most complete team. They look like they're on a mission this year. And I know a lot of other college baseball teams, particularly ones that wear orange and are little East Arkansas, like to run their mouths and toss bats. But Arkansas just looks really professional. They just go in, handle their business, win, and then on to the next one.
And that game last night, it probably could have been 10-0 or 10-2. There were just so many hard hit balls that just died on the warning track. I was just waiting for somebody to finally hit one, and then once they did, they ended up getting 3 on the day.
Yeah, it's
just
been.
Go ahead, Mark.
As it says to say, the weather down there, not letting the ball fly out of the ballpark. This week has been a little down in the power, and then certain teams are just crushing it. But overall, the nation is a little bit down in home runs this weekend. So I don't know if it's just the mid-season drought. People are getting a little worn out. They're getting a little worn down, trying to get ready for that conference tournament play.
Yeah, I was going to say you never really want to slump, but I mean, if you're going to pick a time to slump, April is the time to kind of get right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of been a weird week because some teams have just exploded for runs. Like I know Georgia Tech, North Carolina, they had 27 combined runs, and then Tennessee struggled to only get 2, and Lindsey Nelson. So it's just been a weird week for college baseball. It seems like every week we say that, and it just gets weirder and weirder.
Yeah, I mean, the other team we haven't really talked about too that's been on a little bit of a struggle bus is Virginia. They lost again. They lost to Pitt. They're not looking so great like we thought that they were just cruising. I know that I called them out as being, a little bit on the overrated side last week in the show, but I think that they might get things right. But they got too much offense to be scoring only 4 runs against Pitt.
I don't know, man. Pitt's kind of sneaking up on a few people. I guess Pitt is what it seems like. They're kind of turning into that little pesky stepchild that you have to go north to play. I still don't know how to feel about Pitt and West Virginia. I know to just kind of jump ahead a little bit, but both those teams right in that Pittsburgh region, they both are just so bad on paper, but yet they come away with these series wins.
It's Pitt, West Virginia, Auburn. They're just these pesky teams in these 3 conferences that are just giving people wrong problems.
Well,
maybe
it's
the weather.
Some people do college baseball, some people do cocaine, others do college baseball. We do not do cocaine.
No cocaine here. I just look like this because it's 7 a.m. on the West Coast.
We just happen to wear Hawaiian shirts on Saturdays.
What do y'all think's up with Texas these days? I mean, they had the series loss with Kansas State. They've lost now 2 in a row. Kind of going the wrong direction here.
Like we've been talking about, it's pitching. They don't have the front end pitching that they need to compete. I thought that they would get it right. I thought that they would find the arms. I thought somebody would step up. I said it last week. They didn't. And now you're talking about maybe a team that's not going to be a national seed when they were the consensus number 1 for 2 weeks. This is quite a fall off for a team that has so much potential.
Yeah, and I know Ivan Melendez was out, but I mean, Gavin Cash did go 2 for 3. Granted, he probably doesn't carry, the, I guess, Bovada of Hispanic Titanic and having to leave the yard at every second. But, I mean, their pitching issues, I mean, every week it feels like we're talking about it where they're just having to outscore people. And when their bats go cold like they have, this series, it's just not been, in their MO. And I really don't know where their solution is because it seems like they've run out a lot of arms and they just don't have it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I said it in here or if I said it in our group chat, that Kansas State is not a terrible team. I was kind of surprised that they were last in the Big 12, and I don't think they had a conference win. But then they're taking at least 2 or 3 from Texas. They're going for the sweep today. They're an all right team. So, but certainly Texas should not be losing a series to them. But they're not a total doormat. So a little bit of credit to the Wildcats.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the time when it turns around. Like you said, Jake, Texas has run out a ton of arms. They are trying anybody in their bullpen. They're giving anybody a chance to go out there and prove that they want to be the dude, and nobody's stepping up, and that's kind of scary when you're talking about tournament time. because you're going to need lots of pitching, and they don't have anybody beyond, Friday night.
Yeah, and I mean they don't have Cantonilla coming out to shut it down like they had last year. I mean, there are like
The
hitting the ball a lot
lifetime
better this year. Like I think they're 200 points higher on their average, but I mean it's going to take pitching to win in Omaha, and they just don't have it. They do have the Sunday game today though, and I think they've only lost one Sunday game, and it was to UCLA and Houston. So they are a really good, quote unquote Sunday team. I know it's Saturday, but with Easter and everything, so I think they avoid the sweep today. But I think looking forward, they're going to have to almost win every single series from here on out, just even have the thought of hosting a regional. I mean, I think the super regional, they just, kissed it goodbye this weekend.
Yeah, I still believe that they host a regional. I think that they get us top 16, but I don't think they're a national seed.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I still think they're my Omaha pick to win it. I know Arkansas fans probably aren't going to like it, and probably all my A&M fans even aren't going to like it. But they're just too talented. You have to feel like they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, eventually, I mean, you think that they're just going to be able to get there and be that team again, but who knows? I mean, if they're going to continue to struggle, all you can do is, hope that they get the guys that can start throwing strikes and start getting some outs. And that offense is very good. So if that offense can keep going, maybe it's enough to carry them, but I don't know.
No, I thought we lost you to the hog pin there again.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to the Best Western Wi-Fi. They gave us this complimentary breakfast. I'm told they've never done it before. It was just for our arrival, but the Wi-Fi isn't as great as the breakfast was.
I was gonna say I'm actually staying at the Best Western next weekend in Boston for the Boston College Series, so maybe I'll have to leave a negative review.
I believe we have a video from Alex if we are ready to present it.
Buddy, thanks for joining us this morning. We got special guest today, Chris Demouy, who is from Louisiana area, and he was on the 96-97 national championship baseball team. He was a pitcher on that team, and we're glad that he took some time out of his day to come talk to us. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good, Alex. Thanks for inviting me, and it's always good to talk a little college baseball. So I appreciate the invitation and looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you taking the time. And so we'll get right into it, man. We got a big series against Arkansas coming up this weekend. What do the Hogs do well that LSU's got to watch out for?
In doing some research, obviously they're a really good team, or they wouldn't be ranked top 5 in the country. And Dave Van Horn's did a great job over the last decade and really stockpiling that team with talent. They've had a ton of success. And looking at them this year, I've kind of noticed that they do everything well, but and people may disagree with me. I don't think they do anything amazing, but they have 3 very good starters, and they really only use 4 guys at the bullpen, and they're all very solid. Their ace, and he's going to be going Thursday night, Noland. I mean, he's a true ace, so he's very good. He's 5-1 on the year. He goes deep in the games, an experienced guy. They're very good defensively. They're very sound. They lead the SEC in fielding percentage, so they're not going to hurt themselves. And then from a hitting standpoint, if you look at the stats, they're really middle of the pack in all the hitting categories, but that's not to say that they're a bad hitting team, because they're very good. They're not all average, but they all hit like 300 with 5 home runs, every one of them. And so there's not an easy out in the lineup. And when they play at home in that ballpark, which is an amazing atmosphere, they're just tough to beat.
Yeah, it seems like this season, and even going back to last season, the Tigers have been real road warriors. I mean, seems like they've won most of their road series going back to last year. What do you think? What do you think is about this team that makes that happen?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think you saw that road series at Florida, which kind of surprised some people. And then you wondered, I thought last weekend at Mississippi State was a key series for both teams. And LSU with that come from behind victory, and then the late home run to seal the Saturday game. That was just a huge momentum boost. And then you saw Sunday, the gloves were off, and LSU, it was just a hitter's fest. So some teams may play better on the road, if you think about it, they're college kids, so they're just hanging out with their buddies in the hotel. They're probably playing a lot of card games, watching a lot of movies, and they just wake up, go to the ballpark every day, and then come home. There's no pressure of family or friends, and they can just concentrate on baseball. And maybe it's a chance for Coach Johnson and that new coaching staff to really gel the team a little more camaraderie, since everybody's still getting a chance to know each other, and maybe they just feel more comfortable on the road.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially in that hostile environment. You saw Eric Raiselman, getting teased a little bit by the Mississippi State fans. He seemed to eat it up, though, man. What about this bullpen, man? They just throw so many guys out there. How are they able to just go out there and execute every single one of them? A bunch of different guys.
I think I'm in line with you to where we seem surprised, because early on they seemed to struggle, but the last couple of weekends they've really seemed to find something. And I think, in my opinion, you see Jason Kelly, the pitching coach, and Jay Johnson have finally figured out who fits where. It's kind of like they're putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I think that allows people to relax once those relievers have found their role, and then they can grow in confidence of that role. Once they know their role, they have success, and that only breeds confidence. And you see they're going with Gervais and Raiselman as a closer setup. They seem to flip-flop those guys depending on what the situation calls for or who they feel. I mean, they both have electric stuff. So maybe, with whatever the situation calls for with the jam maybe, or what the situation is at runners on base. And then from a situational perspective, just as well as I do, Alex, they have 4 guys they're really rotating, with Cooper being the lefty. And you have the old guard in Fontenot and Vittmeyer who are doing a good job. And then you also have all of a sudden one other guy, all of a sudden the name's escaping me, who's been throwing really well too. So you just kind of, everybody just seems to be fitting in really well and throwing with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, what's it like to go play in an atmosphere like Baum-Walker Stadium? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, so when I played there, which was 25 years ago, which is very scary, they had just built that stadium, and they've since made additions to it. I think they've gone from turf to grass and back and forth a couple times. But, I mean, it's gorgeous. If you look at it now, they have suites all the way down to the left field and right field foul pole. So they have the berm out there. And I think the teams I was on, we always thrived in those kind of atmospheres. It's kind of a me against the world attitude. You play with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. And I think anybody who's a competitor really relishes in the fact of being able to silence the home crowd. And I think it just kind of brings the best out of you. Really, you have a little bit more of a competitive fire and want a chance to kind of shut that other crowd up. But it's fun. I mean, you're going to get excited and you're going to get amped up. And we always like going on the road,
Yeah. I mean, you guys won back-to-back national championships, so you obviously figured something out.
Yeah, a good time to be part of LSU baseball. Right place, right time.
Yeah. So what's probably your favorite memory from those years of being on the LSU team?
Man, you put him on the spot. That's a tough one. I would say I was thinking about the 97 team because we have a 25-year reunion coming up pretty soon. But right up there has got to be the 1996 College World Series with Warren Morris hitting the walk-off home run and just being part of that team and seeing it happen live. It's kind of one of those moments in LSU sports history where everybody, if you're old enough to remember that, everybody can kind of remember where they were when that happened. And just being part of that mob scene at home plate and a back-and-forth game with a loaded Miami team, and the fact that he does that with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th is truly a storybook ending. And then I would say that 97 team, just being able to witness to win back-to-back, which was crazy, but defeating who kind of our arch rival at that time was Alabama in the championship game was very satisfying. Having a chance, then they beat us earlier in that year, 28-2, if you could believe that, and we come back to play them in the national championship game and beat them 13-6. So, but that whole 97 team and the story of the hitters on that team is obviously it goes down in the record books as one of the best hitting teams ever. But that whole season was just a trip. So it'd be tough to pick one moment out of that.
Yeah. You got any fun skip stories you can share?
I got two. So I was mainly a reliever. Skip, we had roles, but it wasn't like the way they use pitching staff today. So if I came in relief, I would go 7, 8, 9. We'd kind of finish the game out and be used multiple times in the weekend, 2 or 3 times sometimes, and you just don't see that as often nowadays. So I remember in 1998, which is my last year at LSU, we're playing Florida at home, and I had a rough day on Saturday, and I think I gave up a 3-run home run. And he comes out, we're playing catch in the outfield on the game on Sunday before the game starts, and he walks up to me and he says, I'm not going to impersonate him because I don't do a great job of his voice, but he says, "Hey, Demouy, I think I finally figured you out." He goes, "It seems you're really good one day and really bad the other day. So yesterday you were really bad. So today I'm assuming you're going to be really good. So be prepared to pitch." So in true Skip fashion, he puts me in the game that day to close, and I end up closing it out, and we win the series. But that was just funny. And then the other time, he called me the dumbest smart kid he knew. He said, "You're the dumbest smart kid I know." So take that for what it's worth. I guess I'll take it as a compliment, but I don't think he meant it as a compliment at the time. Those are the two off the top of my head I can remember.
Well, that's awesome, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time, and let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Alex. Just started a new podcast, so it's the 60 feet 6 inches LSU pod on YouTube and on Twitter. And so Alex has been grateful to reach out to me on Twitter, and he's been liking a lot of my stuff, and we've been kind of DMing and commenting back and forth on some things. So I appreciate your support in that. So it's just getting up and rolling, and I do kind of a preview before each SEC series and then a recap at the end, and just kind of getting this thing going. But it's been fun to really dive into the team this year. And I just have a chance to, where am I in my life, just have a chance to really pay attention more and just try to take this on. So thank you for letting me promote that podcast right there, Alex.
Yep, no problem. All right. Well, you have a good one. We'll catch you next time.
Sounds good, buddy. Thank you very much.
Well, that was a cool interview with a former national champion. Credit to Alex for setting that up.
Yeah, seems like a fun guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't imagine winning back to back from a fan standpoint, let alone a player standpoint. That was pretty cool.
Oh, it's pretty great. Don't worry about Jake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mark, what was that like?
It was outstanding, and to do it twice against that Fox team in North Carolina, that was impressive because those guys had a lot of draftable talent.
Jake has so many teams that I'm sure he'll go back to back. It may not be the same team.
It may be 2 different teams.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like so many teams. One of them is bound to win it. I mean, I'm an A&M fan, so I can't, cry myself sleep every night. I gotta like other teams too.
That's true. That's fair. I'll allow it.
Well, with favorite teams come favorite players, and we have a little bit of a thing lined up where we're going to pick our favorites of past college players. I'm sure everybody saw that thing on Twitter where, you take I think it started as a baseball thing and kind of evolved, and it's, who's your favorite player, player you dislike, player that grew on you, most overrated player, most underrated player, and the greatest of all time. Jake, new guy, let's hear from you.
I picked 2 because I have so many teams. I said Nick Banks from A&M. He was on that really, really talented A&M team that won 25, I think, to open the season, and ended up losing to TCU in the regional. It just seemed like he played the game with such a passion. He always came up with the big hit at the right time. And I remember he had a pretty cool walk-up song too. So when I was in high school and go see him at Bluebell, I used to think that was like the coolest walk-up song ever. He walked out to Slow, Loud, and Bangin' by 50 Cent. I mean, not 50 Cent, Chamillionaire. And it was just like, I thought it was like the epitome of class. It was like, this guy knows. He's just going to go up there and rake. And then the other one I had was Kyle Russell. So believe it or not, I actually used to be a Texas fan back in the day. I know this is going to come to a shock to a bunch of people. Kyle Russell was on some of those really, really talented, mid-2000s Texas's team. Is Texas's home run leader. and he signed a ball for me when I was a kid, and I thought that was pretty cool. So he's still my favorite player to this day.
Love it. All right. My favorites, I got two as well. Couldn't go between them. Jacoby Ellsbury, he was really the first new era superstar for the Beavers, and he was the first round pick that we had in a long time. He made Oregon State kind of start jumping back off the map with the talent that Pat Casey was bringing in. Oregon kid, grew up in Madras, awesome to have him, and he was such a good ball player and a good person, so it was really awesome to be able to follow him. My other one was Scott Sanchez. I know a lot of people don't remember him, probably, but the Oregon State kid again. He was a little minor role, but he crushed in postseason. He was so clutch. He came up with so many 2-out hits and 2-out doubles. So he was just my favorite player from just my personal favorite. But I got to go with Jacoby.
He seemed like a likable guy. I mean, I kind of found him later in his career when he was at Boston, and he just always seemed to have a big smile on his face.
Yeah, loved the game of baseball, played hard. I mean, if he hadn't gotten hurt in New York, who knows what would have happened. But he had a pretty good start to that career.
Yeah, you almost forget how young he retired just because he exploded onto the scene so fast.
Yeah.
My favorite player is Scott Wingo. You guys, I don't know if anybody's seen me tweet about him a few times, and I don't really know why, but I just love Scott Wingo. I think I was about 13 when they were winning 2 national championships in a row, and I think he was at least on one of those teams, and he was just so automatic. If you needed a clutch hit, he was there. If you needed a great defensive play, I've seen him make fantastic plays on that end. When the White Sox got him, and I think it was something like the 8th round, maybe even later than that, I was stunned he didn't pan out. Just absolutely shocked as a 13-year-old. I can see now why he may not have been up there with the talent level, but Scott Wingo was just so good for those South Carolina teams, and I think he was kind of a leader for him as well. Now he is maybe in line to be the next head coach at South Carolina. If AJ was here, I know he also likes Scott Wingo. It'd be great if they maybe fired Mark Kingston at the end of the year.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm almost just thinking about what AJ would say there.
Yeah, who knows? AJ would probably try and say, "Oh, he's not even the best player on the team," or some garbage.
Yeah, it was some relief pitcher.
Yeah.
So dislike player now.
Yep.
I'm gonna go because I really disliked this player. Trevor Bauer, UCLA. Oregon State fared well against him, but he was such a douche. Nobody wanted to be around him. His teammates didn't love him. There might be different stories, but the appearance was that nobody really liked being around the guy, and he was such a off-put.
No, they didn't.
Dude.
Him and Garrett Cole used to fight in the dugout all the time.
Yeah,
apparently.
they hated. It was so ugly, and they had Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer on the same staff, and Trevor Bauer though is my most disliked player.
I
ever.
hated him too with his stupid little hat that was all sweat stained.
Yeah, and always. I mean, I know he was working on his shoulder with all this, but he always out there with stupid sticks and out there.
Yeah.
In between. Oh man, just get off the field, man. Nobody likes you.
Mine was Adley Ruchman, but it was for a completely different reason because he was so clutch. And I remember when I was at State, he just always seemed to come up and get the big hit. And, we batted from both sides of the plate, so you never had a matchup with him. And it just seemed like, I don't know, when they rolled through that losers bracket in Omaha, and I would just see him so much, and they hyped him up. And at the time, since I really didn't follow West Coast baseball, I was just hyping him up. Turns out he's actually, the number 1 pick, about to make his big league debut. But I didn't hate him from a personal standpoint. I just hated him because he was so good, and I really wanted Mississippi State to win.
Ruining your teams, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. There's a lot of people like that. I feel like, it sucks because he's such a nice guy. So I'm like, can you please just be an asshole? So
yeah, I coached against him when he was at Sherwood High School up in Oregon. He threw a 1-hitter against my team. I was like, oh, he's a pretty good pitcher, and they're like, no, he's a catcher. I was like, oh, there's real trouble here.
The player I dislike is J.J. Schwartz. If you don't know who that is, it's because he's a bum. There was really no particular reason why I picked J.J. Schwartz, but it's hard for me to think of players I don't like because I generally try and like all college players. But he just was one of those guys who he kind of had a little bit of a douche mentality about him, and he kind of like bet on himself and drastically failed. So it was one of those situations where it's just easy to kind of be like, you're massively overrated, so I don't like you.
I love it. It makes you feel good when like the instant karma comes back on people that you hate and they bet on themselves and fail. You're like, yeah, that kind of deserved. You kind of a little
like
air about yourself.
He was like an 8th round pick, and then I think the next year he went in like the 40th round. So,
ooh,
yeah.
I'm sure if we had Tyler, he'd probably say it's even worse if they succeed. So at least you got the karma to get it back, because at least he didn't go on and like get drafted and kill it at the major league level.
Yeah, I think JJ is scooping fries at Burger King these days.
He's probably a real estate agent.
I got the reference. Next is player that grew on me.
Mark, you want to go?
Yeah. Talking about the World Series 2006, Andrew Miller. I really didn't love the guy, and then just watching him go out there and just continue to compete, and then he came in, started game 1, and then he came in and relieved game 3. Unfortunate that his second baseman threw the ball away and cost him the national championship, but I really didn't love the guy all season, and watching him all postseason, and all of a sudden you're like, the guy goes out there and battles, and he's not a dick. He just goes out there, his teammates like him. He's a likable guy. So yeah, he grew on me over that whole season.
Mine's gonna go Cole Gordon. I know that's probably a very mysterious Mississippi State one, but I remember when I first got to Mississippi State as a freshman, he was like this loud guy with a mullet, and he sucked, and he got benched. And I remember I was like, who is this guy? I was like, why is this guy in all the promos? Like, he doesn't even start. So he got recruited as a first baseman, and then they moved him to pitcher, and he was like, he literally only threw fastballs, and he had some cut on it. And I remember one time I bought he had, I guess, signed like a job offer to like go work somewhere in Jackson, and I bought his jerseys like off Facebook and met him, and I remember he was like kind of like an off guy, and he ended up like being their ace pitcher like out of the bullpen, and almost like won them the national championship when they had that surprise team. And then he got drafted, and I think he still plays for the Mets. He had like a job offer. So he was a player that grew on me, because I definitely hated him, because I was like, this guy sucks. He doesn't even play. He has this stupid mullet, and he's always in all these promos. And then he ended up being like the guy pitcher out of the bullpen, and super cool guy. I think he's on the same team with Jake Mangum now. So it's almost like a Mississippi State, 2.0 up with the Mets system. And he did shave the mullet too, so that's probably why he grew on me a little bit.
The Mets drafted Rowdy Jordan too, so they've got the whole. I said Cole Freeman and Kramer Robertson. I love like the shortstop, second base double plays, like Brandon Crawford with the Giants. I just love watching him turn too. I don't like LSU historically. I don't like LSU fans. I don't really like their players. They're smug, but I like Cole Freeman. I love the way he plays second base. And then Kramer, didn't like him in college. I especially didn't like him when he dyed his hair bleach blonde like a scarecrow. But then my Cardinals drafted him, so now I do like him.
Well, Noah, did you know his mom is the women's basketball coach of LSU?
There's no way we would have heard about that. You just made that up. But yeah, those two are mine. Because again, it's hard for me to start a player in a spot where I don't like them, but it is easy for LSU players.
They just start off at that level. You're like, yeah. All right, already unlikable. You're gonna have to work your way into my like list.
Yeah.
See, that's like the opposite. Like me with Jacob Berry. Like, yeah, I liked him when he was all right, and then he goes to LSU. I'm like, oh. Just deflates the person.
Next, we have most overrated player.
Oh, this was a easy pick for me. Somebody that I would have also liked to put on my dislike list. Dustin Ackley.
That was mine.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
He was so good in college, and he just had this air about him, and everyone was like, oh, he's a for sure great pick. And I was like, I just don't love the guy. Like, he has bad approaches sometimes, and he just happens to muscle the ball out, and then turns out he was pretty overrated.
Mine was Julian Infante. I don't know if he's overrated, but I remember he was always like, because I really didn't follow Vanderbilt just because they're almost intolerable to watch with the Whistler and then all the Tim Corbin love that they get. And I feel like if I knew about Julian Infante, I'm like, oh, he's supposed to be the guy. And then he bats like 8th or 9th in their lineup, and he's constantly around that 220 Mendoza line. I was like, why do I know who this guy is? And then when he got drafted, he retired like I think 3 or 4 months later. And I remember I was like, oh, like I was like, Julian Infante was really good. And then I went and looked up his stats again because I'd forgot. I was like, why did he even get drafted?
Yeah. It seemed like they just kept promoting the guy, and it's like, what's the deal here? Did he pay somebody to promote him? Yeah.
He got NIL back before NIL.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you turn on Mississippi State games, you see Dan Faulkner all over the TV. Who's funding this?
Yeah, why do they love Dan so much up there?
They let him cut in line. That's why. It's a conspiracy.
I'm pretty sure Julian Infante was in the college home run derby one year. Like, did everybody else say no? Like,
it's like the NBA dunk contest where they had to keep going down further.
They just keep asking people. Yeah, then they get rookies from who knows where.
Yeah. Hey, you're signed with the college, right? Yeah. You want to be in the home run derby?
What's your exit velocity? It's like, okay, can you get that up?
Yeah. It's ESPN. We'll boost the numbers.
I said my most overrated player was Cody Clemens. He's doing pretty well in AAA, but he kind of had like a 2-week stretch where he was God's gift to the baseball world, and outside of that, he wasn't extraordinary. Like it felt like he was like if he didn't hit a homer, he was going to strike out, and those kind of players usually don't last too long. But he has made it about as far as you can in the minor league system. So we'll see if he breaks through to play for the Tigers. But I think Cody kind of became a little bit larger than life figure almost in that postseason when they made it here. I think 2018, 2019, and he was okay. He was all right. The last name helped a lot.
He was the same way in high school. We played him in high school, and they had his name circled. I think he went like 0 for 3. He struck out. It really didn't do anything.
Casey was never that good either, but I think that Clemens name just carries a lot of weight.
I will say this: his dad was in the stands. His dad is probably in his 50s. That was 6 years ago, so late 40s. He looked like he could still probably bring it 90 miles an hour. He's a tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was in an independent game, like maybe 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah, the Skeeters. Yeah, I forgot about that. Him and Tracy McGrady both played.
So
T-Mac.
He was actually a decent pitcher for what you'd expect. I mean, you expect him to just be terrible because he played basketball, and that really doesn't translate well, but he was pretty decent.
Yeah, it was really surprising. You're like, okay. He's not just going out there for show. Like, this is for real. He's giving it a shot.
Have you ever seen the video of Giannis trying to hit the ball off a tee?
No.
I'll have to find. It's about how you would think somebody like Giannis' size hitting off a tee would go. But that's what I expected with T-Mac, and he ended up shoving a little bit.
Yeah.
Next, we have most underrated player.
I went Pac-12 here this time. Jed Lowry, Stanford. I know these are all a little bit older for people, so I'm trying to hit some more of the categories for people. Jed Lowry took a Stanford team to back-to-back super regionals. Yeah, they lost to Oregon State and won. He was a very good college player and got kind of overshadowed by his teammates. And then he's been in the bigs now for 18 years. Very good talent. I was just felt like he was always underappreciated. Maybe not necessarily underrated, but underappreciated by Stanford fans.
I'm going to use a current one. Jack Hurley out of Virginia Tech. Jack Hurley is hot. Jack Hurley sprays the ball over the entire field. Jack Hurley's top 10 in home runs. And no one talks about him. He should be in the Golden Spikes discussion. Jack Hurley is definitely the most underrated player in college baseball right now.
You want to talk about ESPN having an NIL deal with certain players. How about you with your Virginia Tech random plugins? They're a good team now, but we've been hearing about Virginia Tech long before it was cool.
I had them preseason ranked.
Oh, man. I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, we got fans. We also watch the game, so it makes a big difference when we actually care about the game and we know a little bit of baseball.
And then Dylan Rock, too. Sorry. I just got another shameless one. Dylan Rock for A&M. I feel like no one talks about A&M baseball players in any aspect, and Dylan Rock's He should be first, second team SEC in my opinion.
Yeah,
Biased opinion. I'll asterisk that one.
in a leaned opinion there, yeah.
My most underrated player is Tyler Malone. I know Mark knows that name.
Yep.
But he was a guy who in the 2018 College World Series, I'm not for sure that he made contact. He just struggled mightily. I think if he started any games, he got benched in just about every game he played. You don't want to say he was bad, but he struggled about as much as you can on that stage. Definitely a little bit of the lights the lights were too bright for him. But then in that was 2017, 2018 he came back,
yeah.
and he ended up making the all CWS team. Just a total turnaround. And in that offseason, I had tweeted something along the lines of breakout year for Tyler Malone, and he like remembered that message, and that was pretty cool. And it was just great to see him kind of burst onto the scene. He wasn't, extraordinary over the top, but he was a solid player.
Yeah.
And there were some games where he had multi-homer games. And I know after that rain delay in it was against Washington, I believe. I was DMing him while he was sitting in the dugout. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go out there and hit a home run," and he did. And that was very cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He was such a cool dude. He was so good, and I think that 2017 season he learned a lot after struggling mightily. Like there was a lot of people that struggled down there, and he was probably the top of the list for the Beavers that struggled. And then you get worried like, okay, he had another good 2018 season. Is this going to be the same thing where we struggle when we get there? No, he was like, nope, not happening again. We're just going to tear the cover off the ball. And it was awesome to see. I was so pumped when I saw that on your list.
And he was one of those guys where he just felt like a normal guy at the plate. Like he wasn't overpowering. He's not big.
And
then he makes contact, and he the helmet on his head rattles around as he goes around the bases. Like he's one of us.
Yeah. I know. I always said like it looks like a little leaguer up there hitting home runs.
I remember him. Yeah, when they
and anybody who wears the number 7 has to be good at what they do. Like that's just an automatic thing.
Yeah, you better be good.
And then lastly, the greatest of all time.
Oh, this is easy. Adley Ruchman. I mean, anybody that gets walked with bases loaded and just not even giving at bats, hitting ones over scoreboards from both sides of the plate, leading us to a national championship, and just an overall great dude. Got to be the GOAT for us. I mean, that's easy. That's, Adley 100%.
I'm going to go Jake Mangum, the mayor of Starkville. I was really sad when he didn't end up getting over the hump. It just felt like he was always going to be the guy that got Mississippi State over the hump. He was such an ambassador for Mississippi State as a program. I mean, if I'm starting a program now from scratch, I want freshman year Jake Mangum. The moment was never too big for him. He always motivated his guys. I mean, it always seemed like when someone struck out, Jake Mangum was always at the top of the dugout to greet him and kind of say, hey, we still got the rest of the game left. Jake Mangum, he's going to get a statue outside of Mississippi State. He's going to own, a restaurant called Mangum's everybody's going to go to. He's going to be the actual mayor of Starkville, and he's probably the greatest college baseball player I've ever seen.
That's fair.
I think Jake Mangum just kind of embodies what being a college baseball player is all about.
Yeah. And
he was there his whole career. It was great. He didn't leave early, even though he could have.
Yeah. Day in, day out, consummate baseball player. Just love the game and great for baseball. Great for college baseball.
Which hitter, which thrower, believe it or not, could play anywhere.
Yeah.
Always a team guy.
He went out of his way to vouch for another paid assistant. You don't see players do that too often. And then he said Lemonis was going to bring them a national championship, and then Lemonis did.
They did it. Yeah, I mean, he had, I think, 3 different head coaches in 3 years, too. So I bet you he probably was more of a head coach than, Gary Henderson or something like that. I'm sure a lot of guys leaned on him, and it's really great to see his baseball career even still playing now. Because, he does feel like one of us because he's not, an over-the-top strong guy. He just loves the game of baseball and works hard.
Yep.
And Jake Mangum is going to be the head coach of Mississippi State someday.
Oh, that'd be so great. That'd be so great.
I'd love it. He couldn't win a single game and people would still love him.
You misspelled Southern Miss, though. You misspelled Southern Miss.
That'd be interesting. But my greatest of all time is Michael Roth. If anybody was around during those 2010 South Carolina teams, if Michael Roth was pitching, South Carolina was going to win the game. It was really that simple. They showed him with a big ice pack on his arm every inning. That guy, he was not going to come out of the game. He was an absolute warrior. Never amounted to anything in Major League Baseball. I know he made his debut with either the Angels or the Rangers, and just never really stuck around that level. I think he's retired by now, but he came through AAA Omaha a few times as a visiting team, and it was cool to see him. But it was like, I don't recognize this Michael Roth because he was just so dominant on the mound out there. If I needed a win right now, it would be very hard for me to take any pitcher other than Michael Roth. Even when you look at like Will Bednar a year ago, I would still take Michael Roth because what Bednar did one time, Michael Roth did it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, he'd show up on the mound and you'd be like, great, well, okay, this is going to be – hopefully we can get to the reliever, but we're not going to because this guy throws every inning, every game.
Yeah.
and he was just a stud. He would go out there and he had this air of appearance. He'd just show up and be like, I'm going to beat you. I'm here to beat you. That's what my job is. My guy's going to get me runs. And that was, I mean, for good South Carolina teams too.
Yeah, they were insane. Yeah, that was kind of my introduction to college baseball was right around that time. And there were some times where you would see fans leaving because it's like, oh, he's pitching this guy. No, are you sure you're not reading AJ's answers? This is the second one.
I'm sure. But that just it's when I think of the most dominant players that I've seen in person at the College World Series, it's got to be Michael Roth. Just the way that, there have been some great hitters, great pitchers, but I don't think I've seen Michael Roth. Certainly haven't seen him lose a game. I don't know if I've even seen him give up multiple runs. He was just so good.
Just his dominance factor. I mean, he just, and then it just became this thing where he was the boogeyman in the SEC. You're like, I don't want to play this guy. Yeah. So,
but no, AJ did not feed me any answers this time. But it is coincidental that he took this week off, and I happened to be covering for him. But our next segment is a team not in the top 25, who's going to be the most interesting team in the second half.
Well, I thought it was pretty funny that Jake shows up wearing all Tulane stuff, and I was like highlighting Tulane in my ideas. I'm like, Tulane's got to be one of the most interesting teams. I was gonna go UConn. They just don't play anybody, so they're not interesting to me for the rest of the season. Tulane has a chance to win the AAC. They've beat very good competition. They have played everybody tough that they played. They're 24-11, so they didn't really have the start of the season that they wanted to have. They have talent though. So they've got Ethan Goff, hitting 409, 5 bombs. Aviles, he's hitting 7 home runs, 370. They have offensive talent to hang, and they got pitching. I'm very interested to see if Tulane gets in there, maybe 2-3 seed somewhere. That's going to be a tough out in the tournament.
Yeah, I'll touch on Tulane a little bit later in the midweek segment. My most excited team is going to be Georgia Tech. I mean, Georgia Tech had the talent to beat Georgia earlier in the season. The ACC is really, really deep. I know we've talked about it maybe being as good as the SEC this year. They're going to be a really interesting team just because I feel like their RPI is going to be so high and their strength of schedule is going to be so high that they're playing a lot of good teams. So they're almost kind of getting the Mississippi State football treatment where, they're not bad. They're playing better teams than them. So it'll be really interesting when they kind of get away from the ACC. How their kind of talent level stacks up because, I mean, they did beat Georgia, and Georgia's one of the classes of the SEC this year.
Yeah, I just can't figure out that team because some weeks they're so hot and so perfect.
Yeah,
and then you turn around, you're like, how do you play so good one weekend and then look so bad the next? If they can put it together, though, that is a very talented team with a lot of depth. And on the hitting side, I mean, and they ACC is tough, like we've been talking about all season. I still believe ACC is better than the SEC this year. So if they can continue this, I don't know. But you can't be that streaky for me. But it is interesting to watch them for the second half for sure.
And then TCU is my other one. I know that they're another team I can't really figure out because they lost to Kentucky. They lose to West Virginia. And then, I mean, granted, Tech's terrible away from their ballpark. But I can't figure out this TCU team. I don't know if it's Sarlos, with being an inexperienced as a coach. They're just such a streaky team too that they're another one that I'm circled kind of following the rest of the way out.
Yeah, I mean, first year coach, you look at it and go, is this the reason why there's these ups and downs? This is why he took over a very good program. TCU has a lot of talent. They're a very good team. To drop out of the top 25 and then now they're battling back, and every week feels like they're in a fight for their life of the Big 12. and they're just so up and down.
Mean, they could win the Big 12. They could miss the tournament entirely with Wade. Yeah, it's such a mystery box that you're gonna get with TCU. I'm not sure I would want to go play TCU in any kind of regional sense, just because I feel like they're always there and they're always in it and they're always pesky. But I mean, they're just such an up and down. Those are my two up and down teams.
Yeah, I picked Vanderbilt just because we all know they have the talent to win a national championship, but they just haven't looked the part at all this year. When they do, it's against really bad teams, but we have yet to see them really take care of business against a good team. They did walk off Florida last night. Maybe this is them kind of turning it around. They didn't play extraordinarily well, but they played well enough to win the game. And, like I said, they're still just not looking like Vanderbilt that we know where, Vanderbilt's going to be in Omaha. They may not host a regional. They're not a ranked team right now. So it'll be interesting to see how they carry on. Their schedule kind of gets a little rocky as it does in the SEC, but if any team has the ability to shock at Vanderbilt, it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean, you can't count a Tim Corbin coach team out. I mean, they're just always going to be there. It's been a little shocking to see them play this poorly against certain teams and against the best competition. Usually that's when they step up and they win a game like 4-3 like last night. And it'll be interesting to see how they progress the rest of the season. That could be a team, though, that maybe they go into the SEC tournament and they go roll through it and they win it because they've been preparing. It feels like they've been preparing for tournament play all year. So maybe that's how they get their season back on track.
I say we make them a 2 seed and go out to play at the West Coast. So we don't have to hear the Whistler for a couple weeks. Maybe put them in like an Oregon State.
If they send him to Corvallis, my God, I'll lose my shit.
I was going to say, they're another one of those teams that I circled. I just couldn't put them because I can't watch them with the Whistler and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, Vanderbilt, it's one of those teams that you always expect to be really good, and it's almost shocking when they're not good. And I think that's kind of more the same this year where, I mean, they could do the Mississippi State sweep series, get in the tournament, roll through the tournament, and blink and they're in Omaha. They just have that much experience. I mean, you can't count out experience like that.
And when was the last time you watched an SEC game without hearing a plug of like, oh, how about this great player for Vanderbilt? It feels so weird to watch a game and not hear about Jack Leiter, no matter who's playing in the game. No Kumar talk, no JJ Baudet, no Austin Martin talk. It's very weird. There's no star power in Vanderbilt, other than the logo, of course. The former logo, I guess.
The previous logo.
They were talking about on ESPN last night about how Tim Corbin's like approaching the level of like Gino Auriemma and Coach K and Bill Belichick. Because I think Bill Belichick pulled up at the game last night for him. And it was just annoying that they were at the time losing. And they were talking about how great of a coach Tim Corbin was.
It's tough because like you want to hate Tim Corbin. I do. And but he just shows up every year and he puts together another team and then he just keeps battling and he recruits all over the nation. He's not slow on the recruiting. They'll go get guys from all over the place. I know he came up and got guys from Lake Oswego. I mean, in Portland, Oregon. So it's impressive what he's done, but I don't think he's on that level of Auriemma and Belichick.
I didn't think it either.
Maybe they can win 90 games in a row, and then we'll talk about the Gino Auriemma.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think OU softball is gonna be our comparison to Gino right now. Just kind of give a softball plug.
Jake, this is the time where we normally bring you on.
I was gonna say, should I do like the manager, like twist around, like other manager?
Hey.
So, did want to give a shout out to the Gales of Iona. They were the last winless team. They beat St. Peter's on Thursday. I have no idea if they won last night because as of 11:30 last night, Iona's Athletics had just tweeted that they had a game, not any kind of outcomes or anything like that. So I think that they lost. Just that's a safe bet knowing them. So did want to say I am 2 for 3 on Game of the Years of winless teams winning. I called St. Bonaventure beating Binghamton in their home opener earlier. So as I mentioned earlier, I will be going to Pluckers before the Tulane Houston game and getting their hottest sauce. Not looking forward to it because, if I'm being honest, Tabasco is kind of a hot sauce for me. So it'll be really interesting to see. Wanted to kind of tag on some of the big guns in mid-majors as we kind of wind it down into tournament season. I know Chandler was supposed to come on Southern Miss, so I might save that for later. But just want to say they're one of the hotter teams in the country right now. They're 16-2 in their last 18 games. They're playing even to host a super regional, which is almost crazy to think about as a mid-major. 2-3 months ago, they're one of the teams that were getting left behind in terms of realignment, and now they're probably going to break an attendance record at Southern Miss for their regional. Back-to-back road sweeps is what they're going for today, which I know in a mid-major, it's probably a little bit easier than the SEC, but that's still a tremendous compliment to be able to go through and get back-to-back road sweeps. The Road Eagles, they're going to be traveling really well. I know this is kind of weird because I don't really hear about Gonzaga. Maybe it's the West Coast bias that I have being in the Southeast. They're 22-9, 4-10 in the West Coast Conference. Are they a forgotten about team? I know that I couldn't even tell you a single player that is on their team. It just seems like there's somebody that's always ranked. So I'll try and follow up and get some more info on Gonzaga next week and kind of report back. And then lastly,
they lost UP last night.
I did see that.
Split. Yeah, they ended up finishing out the end of the first game and then split and losing the second one.
Yeah, and I think they're up a game on the West Coast Conference. I forget who it is, but they're all kind of lock jam in there.
Yeah.
I got ECU and Tulane. They're both tied atop the AAC. Tulane won a crazy game last night, 11-10 at Houston. So it set up the rubber match today that I'll be at, repping the Waves. So come say hi if you're going to be there. I didn't realize ECU, because I guess we'd kind of forgotten about them. They had some off-the-field issues. They lost a couple of games that they shouldn't have. But they are the front runners in the AAC right now, and they're going to be a tough out when they start to figure it out because, they're peaking at the right time. It'll be really interesting. I know I said I would save my Tulane stuff. I think they play their way into the tournament. I just think that they hit the ball too well. They remind me a lot of Campbell last year where they just hit. Their pitching is kind of been spotty, so it'll be really interesting to see, kind of down the road if the committee holds them against them. And lastly, my Campbell Camels have won 11 in a row. They're 10-1 in conference. The road runs through Bruce Creek every single year in their conference, and I wouldn't want to see them in a regional as a 3 or 4 seed. I really hope they're a 3 seed because if they're a 4, that's going to be a tough regional. Did want to give a shout out to Campbell Softball. They broke their attendance record last week. They had 380 people show up for a game, so shout out to Campbell Softball. But yeah, it's an exciting week for midweeks. Mid-majors. I didn't have any upsets this week because it's kind of starting to wind down, and it seems like it's just the usual suspects. Yeah. But going forward, start circling some of these mid-major teams and kind of, do the preview for them. Just to kind of look ahead, when we get into tournament time, I'm going to preview every single mid-major that we have. So we'll get you ready to see who's kind of the shocker and the most likely team to go far.
Love it. Tulane plays Southern Miss on Tuesday, and then they get the East Carolina series starting next weekend. So that's a big week for Tulane. That's why I highlighted them in my not top 25 team, because I think that this is either where they step up and they go beat East Carolina in that series and they beat, Southern Miss, or they take a step back. So this is tough for them.
Yeah, that ACU series, I had it circled kind of at the beginning of the year when I was looking at series ahead. And that's going to be a really, really intense series. Both teams are really, really hot. It'll be really interesting to kind of see, who's for real, if Tulane's a contender or a pretender.
And in that ballpark in New Orleans, it'll be really awesome. That'll be really great. It's really going to be a cool series. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed. I'll be at the Virginia Tech Boston College series, but I really wanted to go to that Tulane series. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see. I'll be watching it. I'll have the 2 TVs going at the hotel.
Jake, what is your budget? Because it feels like you were at a game every week, and I know that I personally have not been paying you. I've been paying everybody else just for you. Where is this money coming from, and how can we get our slice of the pie?
Well, I don't have a Coke addiction, so I just watch college baseball. So it saves me a lot of money there. I have the luxury of not having any kids, not being married. So I'm only married to the game of college baseball. Friend of the program at Malinowski, one of my buddies from high school, they're playing at Fenway on Saturday. And it's on my bucket list to always go to Fenway. So hopping on a plane, gas prices high as they are, going to see my Virginia Tech Hokies.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Going to the game there, Fenway to see a college game. That's cool.
Well, Jake, we all wish that we had your resources. As I say, from the luxurious Best Western in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I'm in a beach house on the coast, so
yeah,
give me a break, Mark.
I got nothing to complain about. It feels like I'm always at a beach house somewhere.
Oh, Mark.
But it's an Oregon beach, so it almost really doesn't count.
That's true. This is
Maybe someday you can go to Hawaii. Someday.
That's on my list too. I hopefully if Noah starts paying us, I can go see Scotty Scott in the box in person. Speaking of that, I was really bummed that I wasn't going to get a Hawaii game this week, but Mississippi State and their rain delay showed out for me, so my late night fix got cured.
What a relief. We do have some questions from the fans. We have several on Twitter. I don't know if our producer Alex has any for us. I'll just start with the Twitter ones. First one comes from many of these come from our friend Colt Weezus. Number one, where is Jake's Hawaiian shirt?
My Tulane pride was just too much today. I'm leaving straight after this to go to the Wing Challenge, so I had to get ready. I want everybody at Houston to know I'm here for the Green Waves.
And then the second question rolls right in. Tulane, will Jake pick a team?
I'm so spotty, man. I think I'm going for it. I filmed every podcast at a different house and worn a different college shirt for every podcast. So while y'all are wearing Hawaiian shirts, I'll just throw on some random college one.
Just new college shirts. Love it.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say we're gonna go 5 for 5 because I'm gonna be in Boston and wearing Virginia Tech stuff.
Next question, I guess, is for the masses. Will baseball be played in Starkville today? 70% chance of thunderstorms the next 36 hours. Sources are saying similar weather in Fayetteville today. I'm hearing from a good friend.
I hope. I mean, it's really tough to not get these games in for the SEC. It's tough for any conference, but when you're not getting these games in the SEC, especially with how tight the SEC conference actually is in standings right now, it's going to be really bad if they can't get some of these games in. So I hope that they play. Yeah,
I think they will. They have the turf field, so they got the magic carpet going at Mississippi State. I mean, they'll play it at 2 in the morning, or they can come back. I think that's kind of the good thing about Easter is they can play it tomorrow too. Mississippi State is going for the sweep, so I think Auburn would be fine if they canceled it, but Mississippi State definitely wants to get it going. I'm sure with Alex and probably attest, he's probably praying that the game gets canceled today, so they don't commit more errors.
Yeah, I think they're going to play today just because it kind of. I don't think it's raining right now. It just kind of looks like it's impending downpour. It was raining earlier though, but they did cancel the spring game. They moved it indoors here, so they're already pulling the trigger on some things. So
yeah, you got to be careful with the lightning, especially. I think NCAA is a 45 minutes anytime that there's a strike anywhere within like 10 miles. So it's tough. It's a tough one. But you hope either just blows over or misses it. So
yeah.
See, I always like the Mississippi State rain delays because I know the dude is crazy when it's rocking, but it almost feels like haunted when it's empty and there's no one in there. Like when all the rigs in the outfield are empty, all the frat guys have gone home.
You mean Dan leaves?
Yeah, he had a date, so he's not married to baseball like me.
What a bum. Our next question, did Tennessee peak too early?
yes.
Mark.
I think we're all on the same page here. I mean, we like Tennessee. I don't think that they're a bad team, but you cannot burn that hot. Just like I said, Virginia can't burn that hot. You can't be that good in the first half and continue in the second half. Now, there's time for them to get going again in the later half of the second half of the season. They were too hot early. They're nobody's ever going to go 30-1 again down the back half of the season. That just doesn't happen. So I think Tennessee fans need to temper their expectations and be okay if they go, 18-12 down the stretch here. It's okay. You're not a bad team. Just let your team keep building and get losing games now is not a negative thing. It builds a little bit of character come tournament time.
Yeah, I had a high school coach who used to say every time we would lose that we were reading our press clippings, and I feel like that's how Tennessee was the last couple of weeks. That they probably, I'm not a mole for Tennessee, so I really can't attest to it, but they probably weren't working as hard. I mean, when you're the number one team in the country, it's just so hard to have that same fire. So, I said it earlier, if you're going to pick a time to go on a losing streak, April is the time. They get bulletin board material. But hot take, and Sean clipped it for me on Twitter and tweeted it. I don't think Tennessee goes that far. I think that they peaked way, way too early. I think that they kind of got the Texas treatment where they were the high stick and nail, and every team's going to give them their best shot. And I don't really have a reason other than a gut, but I don't see Tennessee even making Omaha. I know that that's a very, very hot take.
Yeah, I still got them in Omaha right now. I think that they have too much talent. They'll turn it around. I think with a long college season versus what a high school season is, a lot of these freshmen are getting into the doldrums of the season, or like you said, they were press clippings. Well, my coach always said, you're feeling yourself. Well, they were feeling themselves pretty hot there for a little bit, and now it's starting to come back to earth. So I believe that they have the talent to turn it around. I think they'll be fine, but that they were overrated. Yes, they did peak too early.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get back to that level. I don't think Texas has got back to that level since they kind of fell off, and they were Tennessee before Tennessee.
Yeah.
You better watch out, Mark. It seems that it's the orange curse this year. Is it going to hit Oregon State next?
I don't know. We already lost to Stanford for the series, so I hope that's our only series loss.
And it's Virginia. They're another one that's fallen off, so maybe it is the curse of the oranges.
And Miami, too.
Oh, Miami too, yeah.
Oklahoma State. Uh-oh.
Well, they never peaked. They peaked against Vanderbilt, but.
And then our last question from Colt Wees is, how many teams, and it says in parentheses, Tennessee, are using hot bats?
This has been a topic of debate. Now, I know a little bit about this from experience and seeing the people using hot bats and getting to see the insides of some of those bats. I think it's a more prevalent problem that's not being discussed in college baseball. I'm as high as 10% of all college bats are hot, whether that's personally doctored or professionally doctored or accidentally compression too low or too high. I believe that there's a 10% chance that there is 10% of bats that are bad.
I said 50-50 for Power 5 schools. I just think, from what has kind of been explained to me with the process, it just seems like it's so easy to take the sticker off and give it on a new bat. And a lot of these Power 5 teams, I feel like, have so much resources and so many bats that if one gets taken, we got 50 more of them in the bag. I don't see why you wouldn't do it. If I'm being honest with you, I know that's probably like the scumbag salesman in me, but it seems like you just get called out. Like, there's really nothing to lose from it. The bag gets taken, you get called out. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 50-50 with Power 5 teams.
If it gets bad like that, the only way they're going to be able to stop it is by suspensions. And that's
and I
only way
remember
they're
in the MLB when they had all the problems with the sticky stuff, I feel like if they start cracking down on it, we'll maybe see kind of it go away. But right now, if you're not doctoring bats, it's just an out. Like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, there's not a lot of punishment for breaking the rules there.
I know I think Tennessee, which I don't know if they're going to say they're innocent, but they said that it was just a sticker fell off.
Yeah.
So if it's that easy to have a sticker, swap a sticker on, put some pine tar, I don't see why you wouldn't even attempt it.
Yeah, there's a
the
lot
love of the game.
There's a lot of it that I don't know about. I don't know the science of how to fix a bat or anything. But if the whole system is reliant on a sticker staying on a piece of metal, that needs to be fixed at minimum. I don't know what the stickers even look like. I tried to get a look at it when I was watching the Oklahoma State series because I was right behind the batter circle. I think it just kind of goes around where, up the shaft a little bit, where it goes. It goes from the grip to the barrel, just right in there, right at the edge of the grip. But if that's really the system that's in place and the best they could come up with, it's also really hard to enforce it. Like, are you really going to suspend somebody for potentially something as small as a sticker falling off? But if there's more to it, then there is a huge problem.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not a QR code. I mean, just to kind of hop sports a little bit, but I don't know if y'all saw UCF's awful spring uniforms that they're rolling out with the QR code on the back. Maybe do a QR code or something like that, because I just feel like there's so many places to hide too in a college dugout because they have so many people in there.
Yeah.
It's not like Tom Brady's football is where, it's going to be obvious if they go back and do it. Like, they probably have, 30, 40 bats in a dugout at a time, and more in the back if they're at home. I don't see why it's not a bigger issue where more teams aren't getting caught doing it.
Yeah, I don't know if more teams, if they're just not checking.
Another
Also,
question comes from Sean Woodward. Oh, you guys are frozen again. Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, I just don't know if maybe they're just not testing more bats. The thing is, if they don't start going to a bigger suspensions or something, whether it's a coaching suspension or whether it's a player suspension, then there's just not going to be any reason why they just don't break the rules.
Yeah, they got to police it a little better, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another question.
This one comes from Derek Sessions, friend of the program. I'm glad you could join us, Derek. AJ's too busy sleeping or doing whatever he does. Another shout out to the Best Western Wi-Fi for me disappearing there for a second. But is there anything like a lock for Omaha?
Huh.
Mark, I know you want to say it, so go ahead and say it.
Man,
You're gonna jinx it. You're gonna jinx it.
I don't believe that there's anybody that I feel confident in saying they're locked in, that there's one team that's going to be there. If you would have asked me last week, I would have said Tennessee, heartbeat, even though I felt that they were overrated. I don't think there's a single team. If I had to pick one right now, it's Arkansas. I think Arkansas is the lock to get into Omaha, just because I feel like they are playing good baseball right now. I feel like this is the time for them to go. If I had to pick one, if you put me up to it, I'm picking Arkansas.
I'm going to say Texas. I think that the team that we saw at the beginning of the year is still going to come out, that they're just kind of hitting a rough spot, getting some bulletin board material, working maybe a little extra hard to prove people wrong. They're kind of getting that target taken off their back a little bit. And I could very easily see them playing their way into Omaha just off of a talent standpoint. I know that their pitching is kind of an issue, but the flip side of that is, a regional and a super regional, you can get into, a bullpen 10-12 game that I feel very comfortable Texas winning a game like that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lock. Normally, almost every year, I can confidently say there are a few locks. This year feels very different. I don't think there's a lock, but if you're asking me to bet as much money as possible on one team, I'm going to bet on Arkansas, like Mark said, just because, and I've always thought this, that it's very hard to win on the road at Baum-Walker Stadium in the postseason. Last year it happened, so that's why I'm a little bit skeptical. But I've always thought that, okay, if Arkansas hosts a super regional, they will be in Omaha. It's as simple as that. Now I have a little bit of reason to worry about it, but I'm still, if I have to bet, I'm going to bet on Arkansas.
Yeah. I agree. Last season was kind of weird. It's a weird season with everything going on. Playing there, I think that they're just the best team all put together right now. Now, no, they're not our number one team, but they are the best team put together right now.
They're going to be my number one this week when it comes out, just to curse Sean. I think, yeah, there it is. I don't know, man. Maybe this batch of just Dallas transplants that ends up in Northwest Arkansas, went to their summer jobs early, and Baum wasn't as rowdy. So I think maybe you should stay in town a little bit. I'm not gonna say my Arkansas line that I tell Sean all the time. Why you gotta bring up Backley?
I know. I'm telling you, David. I was just not. I saw him one year. And he just not an Ackley fan. I wanted to put him as my dislike player. About. Yeah, but he had he was so hard to hate because he was such a good college player, and then he turns around and is just not good.
Flamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was a surefire. I mean,
he looked like he was good.
Yeah.
You look at the numbers right now, you'd be like, if you were like, oh, I got to draft somebody, you look at all his college stats, and you look at how he actually played and highlights and stuff, you're like, I don't see how he didn't make it.
Yeah, he's my kind of buyers beware with every single like top prospect, because I'm like, okay, like Dustin Ackley. Is this Dustin Ackley? It's almost like the Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson in the draft, where it's like, okay, we got to like pump the brakes a little bit, because he was just supposed to be the guy. I mean, he should still, just off projections alone, he still should be even playing right now, probably being a major league center fielder.
Yeah. Do we got time for our 10 picks, or we got more questions?
Well, first we got to go to our betting segment.
Segment.
But if we don't have any more questions, then there he is, the man, the legend,
the legend, Hawaiian shirt and all.
Yeah, well, at first I have to address all of this LSU hate that was going on at the beginning of this show. All right, I think you hate us because you ain't us. All right.
I more or less hate Greg Street, so it's not necessarily your fault, but
oh man. Well, for betting, Barstool Sportsbook has been our go-to, but man, they let us down today. They don't have any odds for any of the games today.
Nothing in today. Okay.
No, so I went to
that's at Barstool Mincy. Go ahead and tweet at him.
Yeah, if he's watching or if he watches the highlights, can he stop picking A&M to win? Because that's like the favorite. Please pick anybody but A&M.
Oh man! All right, so our guy Sean is still commenting at us. He's still coming with the LSU hate too. She's gonna get swept today.
So
I'll address that here in a second, Sean.
He wants us to stop hyping Arkansas up, but is also saying that they're going to sweep LSU today. Which is it, Sean? We don't get it.
He doesn't even watch the
Have
game.
both ways.
He's too busy studying for
Oh,
accounting.
no, we learned that's a different Sean. We love this guy Sean for no reason. This is a different Sean.
So I had to go to DraftKings Sportsbook to get some lines today. So my 3 picks there, LSU number 1, because I don't see them getting swept today. I don't see that happening. After getting shut out, last night, I really think that they're gonna come out on fire today. Same for Auburn. I don't think there's too much pride on the line to get swept. So I think they'll come out with a win today too. And I think Georgia takes care of business against A&M just because I just think they're just the better team, and I just can't imagine them losing again.
Yeah, I think that LSU, I think Johnson lights a fire on there and we'll get some going again. I mean, it's every weekend though is tough in SEC. You have to come out every single weekend. You're playing somebody that's very good at baseball. So I think that LSU comes out and gets this one though. Don't want to get swept this time.
I'm gonna jinx you on that last game. I'm riding with you. I think A&M loses.
Don't do that. We've been cooling. We've been cooling
pick,
here on the betting segment, so we need to.
When I pick A&M to lose, they always win. So I think A&M loses today.
Yeah, I jumped on that Georgia bandwagon last week. Was all over them. Georgia fans on Twitter are coming out of the woodwork to congratulate me on being a genius, and then they look like an average team.
Then they look pedestrian.
Yeah, they need to get it together.
Well, I mean, they did lose their ace, and I think that really affected them.
Yep. So many arms gone down this year. So many. It's crazy. So many top tier arms. Mm-hmm. Sad.
I didn't realize there were Georgia baseball fans. I thought they just disappeared during football season.
You're wearing Tulane stuff.
Hey, I want to say this. I blame the Tulane athletic department that I'm not wearing a Tulane baseball jersey because they don't sell them. And that was the greatest jersey in all of sports. It's the Tulane baseball jerseys.
They do have some good jerseys.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where we stand, boys, this week after pick'em segments. Noah had a good week last week. AJ, not so much. But Noah, you had a long road to catch up.
Hey, that's okay with us.
Some of these weeks.
All we have to do is gain 3 games, and all of a sudden we're talking about first place. And also, this week, I think But
I was going to say I'm not
imagine
doing good this week.
AJ got embarrassed so badly last week that he took this week off.
He didn't want to go below 500.
He still sent me his picks in, so
Yes,
we'll get that opportunity.
All
I was hoping he would. That's why I got him out early. Yes.
All right. So game one, we got UCLA Stanford. No, you still liking the Bruins?
No, I never liked UCLA. I think they're frauds. But I picked UCLA because every time I pick against them, UCLA wins. I was actually watching the game last night in the hotel here in lovely Fayetteville, and they won. They won the game, so the series is even. We've got a chance. If I can pick up this game, that'd be huge. But I have zero faith in UCLA. They're such a mystery.
Yeah, I think Stanford's too much, and then with no Thatcher on today's game, I think that missing that third starter for UCLA is going to come back, and it's going to be tough today. It was impressive that they won yesterday against a very good Stanford team after getting beat up 9-1 the first game, but yeah, Stanford's too much.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I think they're the class of the Pac-12 with Oregon State, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're one of the last teams to be playing in the Pac-12. It'll be interesting to see kind of how they manage just to look ahead that tournament. But, I mean, no Lumberjacks for the Bruins. I think the trees roll all day.
All right, so we got Vanderbilt in Florida. I didn't really have a good feel for the series. I kind of just went with Florida because honestly, it's that's my wife's favorite team. So I just kind of got to keep the harmony in the household.
I was tired of losing Florida picks, so I decided to go against them this time. I was that new Vanderbilt symbol is just awful.
It's terrible. If I would have known that, I would pick Florida.
I know, and that's why I kind of feel bad. I'm like, boy, but no, I mean, again, I think Vandy turns it. I think this is it for them. So,
yeah, I think Florida's just too up and down this year. I mean, it seems like every single week you don't know which Florida you're going to get. And Vanderbilt, I just felt was a safer pick because I usually know what I'm going to get from them. But it'll be really interesting to see with the rubber match coming up today because Vanderbilt almost stole one last night from Florida with the pass balls. So it'll be interesting to see if Florida can pull it out again today.
Well, when I picked this, I thought that more people would be on Florida. So I was sure to jump on that Vanderbilt train. They're cold. I think that it's very hard to keep Vanderbilt out of the top 25. Felt like they were very due, and then they won game one. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, LSU Arkansas. Unfortunately, this one's already the series is already won.
I have lost every LSU series. I have picked wrong in the LSU series every time. I'm finally like, I'm going to pick LSU this time. They're going to do it. No, I'm wrong again.
I did want to clarify, Alex, that I had the picks in before the game. I just forgot to hit send because Alex did accuse me. He's like, because I literally sent it to him right after the game.
Yeah, like 2 minutes after the game was over Thursday night, Jake sends me his picks.
No, and I even told him, I was like, the one I was trying to cheat on was West Virginia.
The biggest controversies in sports, she doctored bats and Jake sent his picks in late.
Did Jake have the stickers on his picks?
I know. I'll have to timestamp mine.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I picked Arkansas. I just thought the odds of them losing 2 series in a row were extremely low. And you know what? They're going for the sweep today.
Yeah. I knew once LSU lost that first game that Arkansas was going to win the series. I didn't think they were going to hit that lefty yesterday. And I was right.
What happened to Morgan's knee, by the way, Alex?
So he hurt that actually game 1 against Mississippi State. It was his first at bat of that series. He was trying to leg out an infield single and hyperextended his knee trying to get to first. And he's just kind of been, dealing with it. But yeah, last night he had that big brace on.
Yeah, for those that didn't watch, he had like a huge lineman type knee brace.
But yeah, you could tell the rest of that series, everybody was asking what's wrong with Morgan because he just wasn't getting down the line, as fast as he normally would.
Yeah.
All right, Texas Tech TCU. We all whiffed on that one.
Yeah, I I didn't think TCU was going to be ready for this one, but I was wrong. I mean, they have come back alive. I mean, they're so up and down. That's such a roller coaster of a team. I don't know. I just thought Texas Tech was finally getting hot, and definitely wrong.
Very happy to be wrong on this one. Guns down. I hate Texas Tech baseball. I am so happy to be wrong here. They suck outside of their little crackerjack of a ballpark, and I really wish I had the balls to pull the trigger on this one.
Yeah,
I hate Tech more than I hate Texas fans.
Wow, that's a statement.
Two teams that just can't be trusted. You knew one of them was going to wrong us, and I'm glad that we all picked. If I had known that we were all going to jump on, I would have never picked Tech.
It's the curse because we didn't pick the cool mascot, the horned frog last time. That's our fault.
No,
That's our fault.
it's true.
That is something I think about a little bit when I make my picks. Do I really want to see this cool mascot? No, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will pick it.
All right, Florida State, Louisville. Everybody's still sticking with Florida State, huh?
I mean, I think Florida State they have the pitching, and the pitching doesn't go away. The pitching might have a bad day, but it never goes away completely. And when you're talking about series, again, that's why I still have Florida State as being one of those teams because of that front line pitching that they have. And the bats are starting to come alive a little bit. I'd like to see some more production, but yeah, I'm still going Florida State.
They won the series, by the way, so I was wrong. I just can't pick a Florida State team. I thought Louisville might be the most inconsistent team in the country because it seems like every weekend. I mean, even every game because they lose midweek games too. You just don't know what you're gonna get. I picked them because I really liked. I don't know. I didn't say Tulane's uniforms were pretty good, but Louisville kind of rolled out something similar, so I think that's why I went with them. I just think it's going to be tough to beat Florida State on a one game with their starter that they have frontline going. I think Messick. I didn't want to say his name wrong.
Parker Messick.
Yeah. So you almost have to win one of the next two, and Louisville just couldn't get it done this week.
Yeah, this was another one where I picked. I figured that the majority would be on Florida State, but I expected more than one for Louisville. So thanks for following forward, Jake. But I hate picking Florida State, but I figured another team can't lose two series in a row. So go Noles.
All right, we got Miami and Virginia Tech.
I whiffed on this
the
one.
The cooler logo wins again.
Yeah, I know. I've been on the Miami train though. Like I've been picking them. I've been hyping them up. I've been talking them up. So I stuck with them. You know, I can't just turn away from them after picking them all the time. That Vaught Tech team has really surprised me. I'm gonna be honest. I did not think that they were going to be able to hang with the ACC, and they have shown that they're in the top class. They're right there, right where they want to be.
Yeah, this was.
I mean, what more can you say? I've been on Virginia Tech since the beginning. They broke attendance record last night. I think they even host a regional, and they are dangerous. They hit the ball all over the field. Every single one of their guys seems like has the power to, hit it out of the ballpark. Buyers beware with Virginia Tech. Jump on the train early because they're going to be going far.
We might be heading towards an Omaha where Jake has multiple teams.
I mean, I think the odds are pretty good. He's got so many teams.
Yeah. Jake, would you be afraid or would it be welcoming if you had all 8 teams were one of your teams?
I mean, it'd be like great. Well, I don't think A&M's going to get there, so we don't have to worry about them. But it'd be like gravy. Every game I would have to wear like a Virginia Tech hat and then like a Tulane shirt. And people would be like, what the heck?
But yeah, credit to Jake for the Virginia Tech train, and credit to me for never picking Miami. I was so glad that Virginia Tech won those games. Miami is fraudulent. They will lose a regional.
Oh, man. All right, Georgia Tech, North Carolina. I didn't see what happened in this game last night. Did y'all?
No.
Georgia Tech
won.
They had the 27 runs, and Georgia Tech outlasted them 15-12.
Yeah.
Wow.
And have they won the series or is it tied?
They won the series.
Tech won the series last night. Yeah.
I love picking Georgia Tech. It always works out well for me. If Georgia Tech fans want to pay me to start picking them more often, that would be fine with me. They've won 2 great series in a row now. which means they're going to lose 2 series in a row now. So be aware of that.
I have yet to pick a Georgia Tech series correctly either. So Georgia Tech and LSU series, I am 0 on. Getting a little frustrated here. I thought that at home, North Carolina with the pitching and everything, and then I'm like, oh, hyping up the pitching, and all of a sudden 27 runs last night. So cool.
Yeah, the North Carolina one kind of surprised me. I mean, they're hanging their hats on now. Their only conference wins are Duke and Pitt. So I know we were really high on UNC earlier in the year. So they're buying stock in the wrong direction.
Yep.
So we got Auburn, Mississippi State.
Well, AJ and I got the game back from you guys on that last one, the Miami game. So yeah, I liked Auburn. I've been hyping them up all year, but going into Starkville when you're literally going after a dog that's cornered, and Mississippi State had to start winning the series, and this is where they're turning around.
You're welcome, Mississippi State fans. Always fade me on A&M and Mississippi State picks. I thought Auburn was actually going to show me a little bit more than they've shown the last couple series. I know they blew the game on Thursday night, and then last night, with the rain, it was a little kind of weird game. But I don't know what to think about this Auburn team either. They're kind of in that everybody outside of Tennessee and Arkansas in the SEC, and then obviously Missouri for other reasons. I don't feel comfortable picking any of those teams against one another. It just seems like it's a crapshoot at this point.
Yeah, Auburn made my list after this one. I am no longer going to be picking them. This was my first time picking Auburn. I dipped my toes in the Auburn River, and the river said, you suck. So I am done with Auburn. If they're on here ever again, I will pick against them. That's a guarantee.
I'm gonna put that in my notes.
Yeah, pick a logo, pick a mascot, Auburn, and maybe we'll
pick a mascot. Oh man! All right, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia.
I've been really an Oklahoma State hater, and West Virginia. I felt like it's just so tough to go into Morgantown. I think it's because I had a West Virginia fan tweet at me that I kind of got a little hyped on them, so wanted to pump the brakes on them. I always West Virginia is so far for a lot of these Big 12 teams that it's almost like the great wide open, and it takes a lot of mental focus to go into Morgantown and win series. And I do have to give credit to Oklahoma State for winning last night. It was a very close game, and
it was a good game, 2-1.
It was a really good game.
That's what you're wanting if you're West Virginia. You want to keep those games close and low scoring. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody had West Virginia on their bingo card to start the year, being, leaders of the Big 12 at this point.
They already got one win this week by getting JT Daniels, so they don't get another one.
And they got the Pitt game back, so it's a good weekend to be a West Virginia fan.
Yeah.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Cal Poly and UC Irvine.
Wow.
The Anteaters and the Mustangs.
Wow.
You know my hate for Cal Poly. So this has been a thing. Daniel Faulkner and I have been going back and forth in a little friendly rivalry here. I picked UC Irvine here, and I said that if Cal Poly wins the series, that I will go buy a Cal Poly hat and apologize next week. Let's go UC Irvine. They're 1-1 going into today's game. I like the Anteaters.
They stole that game too last night. I think they had only had like one run in 17 innings or something like that, and they ended up winning.
Yeah.
I can't believe is it the Big West? I can't believe how far, just to kind of touch on another point, how far Long Beach State has kind of fallen. Because Cal Poly, UC Irvine, all of them are in the hunt. And I do think it's a one-team conference this year. So these are the games that, you kind of have to set yourself apart. And I actually changed my pick last minute because I got a gut feeling on Irvine, so hopefully they come through for me.
Yeah, Daniel Faulkner exposed me for disrespecting Cal Poly this week. And ever since then, they've been on fire. And I picked them the last 2 weeks. They always get me at my worst, but never get me at my best. But Cal Poly followed him. The baseball program followed him on Twitter. And then Brooks Lee was liking his tweets. I won't have any of that. So I did made my promise that I will apologize if they win 3 of 4. So they do have to win today. And then they also have to beat Stanford on Monday or Tuesday, whenever they play. Pressure's on them. Picked them once again. Nobody loves Cal Poly more than me. You got me at a bad time. Yeah.
That's nationally ranked Cal Poly to you, Noah.
I also have to add that this anteater is an incredible logo. I would buy that logo on a shirt.
I knew you'd like that.
Yeah, I got a big rivalry as Oregon State with the Anteaters, man. We played them a bunch, so I picked them. I'm still gonna stick on my Cal Poly hate, and I'm not apologizing for it.
Big West has the best mascots of any conference. They got the Matadors, the Titans.
They got Hawaii
The
too, right?
Dirtbags.
Rainbow, the Warriors.
Yeah, the
out there.
Rainbows, the Bows.
Yeah, the Bows. They got some good ones.
People are.
Jake got a question for you here.
Yeah. Well,
Fake
the
coffee.
hashtag game is aimed at me. I tweeted a picture of some coffee this morning that I guess was a little too light for people's taste. We're talking about hotel coffee here, folks. If I can't put 2 creamers in my hotel coffee, then lock me up.
I know you're not a middle schooler going to algebra class. Drink some black coffee like a man.
It was very brown. It was a very brown coffee. If I pooped that color, you guys would say, "Oh, that's a good poop." But people were calling it milk. We're not talking about milk here. Thank you, Steve,
my
for calling that
God.
out.
I will be at Tulane, Houston. Me and probably 300 of my closest friends, because a lot of people don't seem to get used to baseball games.
348, I believe, is the number.
I know, we're trying to break the Campbell softball record.
Oh man. Well, it's a great show today, guys. Ran a little bit long today, but had a lot of great content. So
Absolutely.
it's another great day of college baseball, huh?
Yeah. Oh, and thanks, Fun Killer Steve. We'll try to figure out what that Oregon State issue was. I couldn't find anything on it. And I was shooting pool, so I didn't get to watch the game, unfortunately.
Fake fan.
Feel free to tweet at it, because I tried to watch the highlights and they didn't mention it either.
It was
So
not in any of the highlights. It wasn't in any of the reviews. So I was trying to figure out what it was. I was doing research all morning trying to figure it out because when I got home from pool. So
I Googled it and it brought me down the Adley Ruchman hole again. I had to relive it a second time.
Oh man. All right. Well, we'll see y'all next week.
Yep.
See y'all.